When I first read the script, my first thought was, sweet, I'm gonna make a movie. The story is different because I love working on action stuff. I started out doing really cheesy action type short films and stuff with my brother, so that was alluring to me. And I love sci-fi too, so there's kind of like a mix of everything that I love. I like film noir stuff and crime stuff, so it's just kind of a really cool mix. There were many challenges to bring the script to life for many different reasons. It's good to have a partner and work with somebody. Me and Joe work together because we can split up all the responsibilities and then, like accomplish goals more easily. Just because of the genre and like what it takes to make a film like this with lots of people dying, bad guys. There's like the number of people alone that you have to deal with and enlist their help and schedule and all this stuff is a huge task for 2 people, 3 people to accomplish. So that was probably one of the biggest difficulties, but I think we were just blessed and then happened to be talking to the right people as far as like who we were getting involved to where they, I'd say like 90% of the time people showed up when we asked them to and followed through with their word. So I wanted to be involved in this because I met Joseph Mba on another feature film set. He was the DP and I was AD, and neither of us had made our own feature film before, and we both have a dream of directing, and we both kind of arrived at this conclusion at the same time that we just had to go out and do it, and no matter what it took, just get it done, regardless of the consequences, and just kind of jump into it. So it was funny, I found out Joe was planning on doing the same exact thing I was planning on doing. He was getting a script ready, he was starting to get ready to film, and I was on the exact same page. So I was like, it makes no sense for us to do this by ourselves. So that was the main reason I wanted to be involved. I think that it's very rare to see an action film that's not necessarily independent, but so low budget. There are some independent action things here and there. They're not very common. I know there's other elements to the story besides just action, but it's pretty action-packed. And because it takes a very special set of skills to do action scenes, you got fight choreography, you got stunts, you've got, there's some more risk involved, there's some more money involved, you gotta have the right people that are willing to do it. If they're new to it, they gotta be willing to rough it out and work with you being safe and then executing properly, because a lot of indie films or lower budget indie films, even if they are drama, but they have one dude getting punched in the face at like some point in the movie, and it just like totally pulls you out because it looks completely fake. It's like, if it's that difficult to film somebody getting punched in the face once, how difficult is it to choreograph and block out entire action scenes? And so I think people will be surprised at the quality that we've brought for those scenes, as well as the visual effects. I think the visual effects will be something that the quality really surprises people, like, oh wow. And then also the unique blend of the genres, the sci-fi, the action, the crime, and also what Joseph was talking about is the cinematic universe that he's created is like a comic book kind of feel, DC, Marvel kind of thing, but it's got its own unique spin, it's its own universe, and there's just something different there. Christopher Nolan is one of the ones that I look up to. Clearly he's doing something right with like how great his films are. He's able to get people to give him money to make these films that are sometimes longer than your typical film, maybe not like your typical route story-wise, so maybe not the safest option story-wise, but he manages to get people not only to invest in those films, but then he executes them very well. So that's one reason. And there's other people that I look up to, of course, but that's just one. As far as how the film has changed from pre-production till now, it's never exactly the same, and sometimes completely different from when it started out as an idea, and then it changes a whole lot when you actually make it into a script, and then you might have several drafts, and then it changes even more. But like once you cut it, how different it is could be drastic. Joe came up with the concept and wrote the script, and we kind of worked together to polish it up a little bit. But even just from pre-production and like working in production on the film till now, it's changed quite a lot because we've cut out a few scenes. Characters' backgrounds have changed slightly just based on those changes. And the most important scene, that's a really difficult question because I think that we've learned more over the course of this, especially in editing, how you have to kind of craft the scenes together to tell a story. And you absolutely cannot have anything that does not serve the story, which I've heard like 1,000 times, but it's so different, so different hearing it or reading it or whatever, but compared to experiencing it. Like when you experience how terrible it is to have any scene that doesn't serve the story. So each scene that's in there, I think, is very important. The most important scene, who's to say? I don't know. I think that we made an addition, which is a new intro to the film, and that scene I think is very important, especially because it explains some plot points. It helps the viewer understand right away what kind of experience they're about to have, what kind of film they're about to see, and it establishes the setting of the film much better than it did originally. The hardest part about putting this movie together was the distance between just location on where me and Joseph live at least an hour away from each other. So it's really hard it's easier to work with somebody in person, I think, even if you're just there and trying to lock down locations and pre-production or something. It helps a lot to be close, but at the same time, really good communication helped with that. We call each other constantly. Whatever we needed to do, we got it done, and we made it work. But that was difficult initially, and I think having very limited funds, because everything else was just was sweat equity and just getting it done and putting the work in to lock down locations and people, and it's just work. And work is one thing. I mean, time is something that right now that we have, but money is something that we do not. And there are certain things that you can get without money. You can call for favors. You can ask somebody for help. You can jury rig something. You can do a lot of things to save or not spend money. But there are certain things that you have to spend money on. So when you get to that point where it's well, we have to spend money now, there's no way around it, then it gets difficult when you have very limited funds. But we made it work. My favorite part of this movie, I have a couple favorite parts. My first favorite part is a fight scene in a restaurant between Seuss and a few other people that work there, and I really dig that fight scene. It was a lot of fun. We had our fight choreographer, Cisco Saavedra, and we'd worked with them only one time before. We knew him for a long time as an actor, but using him as a fight choreographer, it helped us a lot. Because most of the film we choreographed the fights and all that, but having somebody who knows their stuff helps tremendously. But I love the way the scene turned out. The other one has to be the final shootout scene. We've kind of established a method throughout the film on how to shoot shootout kind of scenes between groups of people, and we kind of realized this is how the Hollywood people do it. This is how Michael Bay shoots stuff like this. I just went and saw another film of his, and I'm analyzing it. This is exactly how we shot this final shootout scene in our film. The only difference is it has more production value. It's got, it's got an explosion here, it's got an aerial shot over here, so there's a lot more production value, but it's the same thing. So to putting that scene together and then being able to watch it afterwards and seeing how well it turned out is a point of pride for me personally, but also knowing that when we do get to the next step and we have more money, we can add that production value and we'll know how to do it, and we'll know how to do it, and it'll be awesome. Just do it. Just do it. I pretty much am echoing like the advice of everybody I've ever heard, or like you can look up on YouTube. There's 1,000 videos from like big directors, you know, Scorsese and all these people, and they say the exact same thing. They say like, if you want to make movies, just go out and do it. Like, don't make excuses about it. It's like partly an illogical thing. You have to like make this leap of faith where there's like a gap in logic there. So some people are gonna be like, even me and Joe, when we first started working together, I was like, it would have been really nice to plan a little bit more, to you know, maybe save up a little bit of money so we could have it. But no, we just jumped into it. But I'm really glad that we did, because that's the only way to do it, especially if it's your first movie. There will always be an obstacle, so you just have to push on.